There's something so inherently cool and appealing about big Transformers. I mean, they're alright as 6-inch action figures, we're all in agreement about that, but in the movies and cartoons, they're giants. Sometimes you want a toy that can reflect just how massive they're meant to be so they can tower over your other toys, and no one's better at towering than my guy Tidal, a character that has hardly done anything ever, and has been largely forgotten by the overall franchise as time marches on, but god am I glad that Hasbro decided to give him a figure that had some height. So let's go over everything I love about this titanic, seafaring, laser gun-encrusted brute after a word from our sponsor. Longtime fans of the channel probably know that one of my other great passions beyond comics is the wonderful world of Transformers. Today I'm proud to be sponsored by Transformers Eternal War, a brand new strategy mobile game where you can freely build your own 5-bot squad. Transformers Eternal War features an original story written by Simon Furman, the legendary writer who helped define the Transformers universe for generations of fans with his work on the original comics. In this all-new story, players encounter the rise of the Chaos Legion, a threat unlike anything faced before, forcing Autobots and Decepticons to join forces to save Earth and Cybertron. Can you imagine seeing Bumblebee and Starscream fighting side by side? You never get to see those characters interact, really, so that's awesome. Eternal War evolves the character collector experience with a streamlined system focused on tactical squad building and strategic progression over constant micromanagement. Whether online or away from the battlefield, your forces continue fighting, gathering resources, or advancing the war effort around the clock. You can recruit, upgrade, and command an ever-expanding roster of iconic Transformers, and every squad composition can change the tide of battle. Beyond the battlefield, players can expand and manage support facilities around the Ark to keep resources flowing to your combat-ready forces at all times. Combining legendary characters, an original story from one of the franchise's most iconic writers, and a modern strategic gameplay experience built for mobile, Transformers Eternal War is a bold new step for the franchise, and a celebration of Transformers history for longtime fans. Transformers Eternal War is open for pre-registration, where you can get exclusive benefits like an avatar frame, nameplate, and the characters Jazz and Bumblebee. Just follow my links in the description to get started. Alright, let's dive into the deep end. Why exactly do I love this character so much? Video games! The PS2 video game based on the Transformers Armada cartoon had a generational character reveal, where you board an aquatic Decepticon vessel that seems to be a staging ground for their drone armies. You battle your way through endless corridors and massive hangars full of robots, but then you notice something odd behind this window. All this machinery in this inaccessible room kinda looks like a big face, doesn't it? And when you've seemingly completed your mission, the unthinkable happens. You realize you were stupid for forgetting that this is a vehicle in a Transformers thing, which means it's also a guy! A huge guy! The hugest guy! Second only to the planet guy at the end of the game. And that leads to one of the most memorable and intense video game boss encounters of my childhood. Tidal Wave was awesome in this game and cemented in my brain that this character was one of the most badass things in Transformers history. And then I never really saw him again because he was just kind of like in the background for the Unicron trilogy, and then they never really cared about him after that. Naturally, a character that left such a huge impression on me needed to be added to my collection. Ironically, as much as Armada was one of the two big influences on me getting into Transformers, along with Beast Wars, I never managed to get any toys based on that cartoon as a kid except the Happy Meal stuff. So when Hasbro started doing new versions of those toys for their Legacy United line, I had to correct certain inequities. Feels good to have the gang from the PS2 game all here, I'm just missing that dweeb Cyclonus. All of these are great new versions of the classic figures, but no one got more of an upgrade than Tidal Wave. Standing at 19 inches of Venom, this behemoth is packed with beautiful mechanical detailing that just really helps to sell the scale. He's built almost entirely of heavy-duty ratchet joints to hold the weight of all these huge components, and he's got a nice heft to him.
My word, now that is what I call one finely tuned piece of military machinery.
I appreciate that they could have gotten away with leaving his head as a simple swivel, but they added the ability for him to look up just in case you want him swatting F-16s from the sky like Gorgor. The scale on this figure is obviously not accurate to the cartoon and definitely not to scale with the game, otherwise it would have to be taller than my house. I'd say it's a tough fight, but Armada Optimus still might pull this one out. The closest thing we've got to proper sizing with the game is Core Class Optimus, and even that's like if Optimus Prime was 10 stories tall instead of 3.
Do not grieve. Soon, I shall be one with the Matrix.
This battleship is meant to house hundreds of soldiers that are over 10 feet tall at least, and these corridors are huge, so the ship has got to be as big as a medium-sized city. I bet an actual aircraft carrier is probably weirdly small in comparison. So even though Tidal Wave is doomed to have out-of-scale toys forever by nature of being such an impossibly huge entity, he's in good company with Unicron and Galactus. He's closer to the size of the one in the cartoon, which was confusing to look at because it implied that the boat he turned into was more the size of a small yacht, maybe even so small that humans couldn't be inside of it. In robot mode, he was barely larger than the Autobots, so it was funny to scale him up to so huge in the game. Although that guy could fly, or hover, kind of. The paint job on the figure is based on his look in the cartoon, but the game designed him after his original toy, which was primarily green. I know Transformers don't get as many opportunities to sell repaints or reused parts as Marvel Legends do, so hey Hasbro, you could make a Gamerverse version of this guy that would probably sell decently well for people nostalgic for the game. They'll just go back to selling a million of the same Starscream body. His transformation involves a lot of parts forming and separating the extremities to complete, but it's a very simple and intuitive transformation. Don't forget to fold up this thingy and this tower over here. Very important. You could probably use this boat as a battle axe. Here he is, an aircraft carrier for giants. And here's a human-sized aircraft to instantly shatter the illusion. And here's a modestly sized sports car to ruin it even further. Even still, I'd have killed to have this figure as a kid. I mean, I would have played with this as a playset every day, having him be both the Decepticon command center and a giant foe to blast infinite lasers at the heroes.
Oh man, doesn't this creep ever have to reload?
No kidding.
These two modes are all I needed, but for maximum accuracy to his original toy, they also included the ability to separate him into the Dark Fleet, which are three adorable looking little chunks of robot that sort of resemble boats. The aircraft carrier one in the middle is the most normal looking. This looks like something Cobra Commander would operate out of, and this is a box. This one doesn't hold together particularly well because of the very weak connection points underneath. These parts also all reassemble into a base mode. I tried to make it myself, but halfway through the transformation I realized I actually hate the concept of base modes on Transformers with a fiery passion, because it's always just the character posed like this. They don't ever look like actual structures, it's just a heap of tangled limbs spread across the floor so they can artificially inflate the price by arguing it has an extra mode when it really doesn't. And last but not least, Tidal Wave's components shift their mass even further to combine with Megatron in a way that's just hilarious. Throughout Tidal Wave's body, there are small compartments housing these extra parts that snap onto Megatron because the figure's normal components are way too big to do so naturally. So they have these faux, smaller ones that link up to big bad Beetle Megs. Optimus has two different combinations in this show that make him twice as big and covered in a ton more weapons, and then Megatron has some boat stuff hooked to him and he gets lifts in his shoes. What the hell are you wearing? These parts don't look badass, they just look cumbersome and they weigh down his shoulders. Like, I get this part can kind of be used as a shield. These things look like a jetpack, but what's this do? You gonna stab you at the front ends of the boat? At least proportionally, this mode looks a little better than it did on the original version of these guys from the 2000s, but that's a low bar. Hey, you can even use these combiner pieces to make a mini version of his silly boat fleet. It doesn't look any better when it's 10% of the size. My biggest frustration is that all these scaled down parts are actually enough to build a 5 to 6 inch tall mini Tidal Wave. Here's the arms, chest, legs, his feet even transform to lay flat, like all it's missing is the head. You had everything right there! I would much rather have that thrown in as a gimmicky extra thing than the base mode, because at least it's a real thing. He could be like a Robot Heroes Tidal Wave, it'd be adorable. And just because I like doing these, here's some size comparisons. Godzilla! Hey, does this Godzilla actually scale with core class Transformers? That's about how big a truck is compared to him at this stage, I think. Every time they cut back to that damn aircraft carrier in the first two Bayformers movies as a kid, I felt this jolt of excitement because I thought either the Decepticons had been playing the long game and let Tidal Wave serve as a spy on the US military guarding Megatron's corpse, hiding in plain sight, or they'd use the Allspark fragment to instantly create a devastatingly huge new ally, since the previous movie established that they could just turn stuff into Decepticons randomly with it. But alas, Michael Bay was probably under some kind of contract with the US military to not show the aircraft carrier in a negative light and couldn't do it. I know they're working on a new movie right now, and my suggestion for how to do some never-before-seen Bayhem is to finally commit to Tidal Wave stomping through a city, covered in giant slabs of high-grade steel runway flight decks on his arms, punching through skyscrapers on a coastal city line. If I'm being honest, I haven't been as interested in collecting Transformers this year, but I also think their output of new figures seems to have slowed down in the wake of the brand hitting a bit of a lull culturally. Rise of the Beast just didn't really hit the same way for most people as the Bayformers movies did, even though I think it was a little bit better. As a Beast Wars fan, it was a giant disappointment. And then Transformers 1 could have been huge, but then the marketing let it down severely. I think when the next movie comes, or when they do a cartoon that people actually watch again, we'll get a new boom of toys, but for now they're just putting out more G1s of things. Which I don't hate, I like G1, but it's not my absolute favorite either. That's why I felt like looking back on some of the older Transformers stuff I've collected that I've really come to love. Beast Wars and Armada are what got me into Transformers as a kid, so I'm always going to be looking forward to more representation of those two things in the toys. I definitely recommend this tidal wave if you were a fan of that cartoon or the game, just because he is such a big showpiece. Like, you gotta really find a spot for him in your living room though, because he takes up so much room you can't put him on a standard shelf, but that's maybe half the fun of it. I like toys that are also furniture, I guess. That's part of being an adult. Let me know what toys you want to see me review next, since I've got a ton of them and I like making these easier, simpler videos, and you know, I think I should actually talk about some Ninja Turtles at some point. I always get mad at YouTube for not putting my videos in the subscription box because people will comment, "Finally, Xavier uploads again after all these years," not knowing 3 other videos came out within the last month already. So maybe that stupid bell icon thing will help you remember I exist. If you want other ways to support the channel, you can always go hit up that Patreon for early videos and exclusive stuff because it's just $1. I'm not kidding, it's only $1. Isn't that cool? If just 5% of the people subscribed to me donated only $1 a month, I could make videos even faster and keep my house. You can also check out our merch on TeePublic, or just buy some of my random stuff on eBay. I have a pretty substantial collection of old toys that are still in the box in perfect condition, so go take a look in case you find something you like. And lastly, since this is a YouTube video and you probably play Fortnite, drop my creator code XavierGM next time you buy a silly dance or a cool character skin. Really helps me out. See you next time!